You ready to do our Cooper ritual?
Let's do it.
All right. God, I just thank you for my husband. I declare
Yes,
blessings
Jesus.
over his life from the crown of his head to
Yes,
the
Lord.
soles of his feet. God, I declare healing, blessing. Give him the desires of his heart.
Yes,
In
Jesus.
Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
I receive in Jesus' name. Father, in the name of Jesus, I thank you for my beautiful wife. I speak that you bless her health. I decree that you bless all that concerns her and you perfect all that concerns her. Father, whatever she desires to do in this season, bless her with the grace and strength to do it. I speak blessings, blessings, blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So, babe, we're going to talk about a very, very, very important topic today.
Yes.
And this is concerning primarily marriages. And we're going to talk about the topic of affection because so many people are in affectionless marriages. They're married, but they are void of affection.
Wow.
And it's so easy to find ourselves in this place where
Yes.
we're married, on paper, but silently divorced within our marriage, within our affection, within our closeness. And so we're going to start talking about like some of these things that cause us to get to this place where there's no affection in marriage. Talk about some of the deep rooted things because a lot of times it's not just a one size fits all. It's not just connect more, have more intimacy. There are deeper roots at play. And then talk about some of the things that we can do to really start to rebuild that connection, heal, and bring our relationship forward.
Yeah, it's true. And when people are married and starving for affection, a lot of bad things can happen.
Yeah.
Toxic habits can be created. Infidelity
Yes.
can happen.
Yeah.
People can come in and wreck the home. That's when the secretary at the job comes about. You got the job husband, and all these things
Work
happen.
wife.
The work wife. All these things happen because there is a starvation for affection. And it doesn't mean that two people do not love each other, but there's a void in the affectionate realm.
For sure.
And so it's very important that we do have this discussion and also prevent certain things from happening. When God has put two people together, He's created them for a purpose. He's put them together for a purpose. He put them together to show forth His glory if they're Christians in their marriage. And so, I definitely would love to have this conversation with you about it because I know we both had our experiences.
Absolutely.
Where
Those
we
stages,
felt, we felt like there was a void of affection between both of us.
Right.
And there was some warfare. And I don't like to just call it spiritual warfare, but I like to call it also marital warfare.
Yeah.
Relationship warfare between us.
Absolutely.
Because there was a void of affection, there was an unwillingness to articulate or communicate.
Inability
Probably we
sometimes.
didn't even know how to communicate it to each other. We was not even open to share certain things that we needed affection wise.
Yeah.
And so we can be married, but yet we was married, but yet we was disconnected.
Absolutely.
I didn't see you didn't see me.
Yeah.
Which was one of the major components for the disconnection of affection.
Yeah.
So I believe that this conversation is going to be very transformative tonight.
I agree.
And very needful.
I agree. So I want to start with talking about how our childhood, how our upbringing, how the map that our parents, or if there was a single parent, the map, the blueprint that they set, right? Because that plays a huge part in how we show up in marriage and how we exhibit affection or the lack thereof, right? Based on how our parents were affectionate, how they showed up with one another, what their closeness looked like, what their connection looked like, what their attachments looked like, or how just based on how functional they were or how dysfunctional they were.
That's right.
It has a lot to do with the way that we show up in marriage and how we connect with one another. Yeah. And I know, for myself personally, there wasn't a lot of PDA, in the relationship. And that's something that we were able to break through.
But then there was the
public display of affection, but there's still even though we had a lot of PDA, at times there was still a part of me that was very guarded because that's what I saw growing up. There was some guardedness there. There wasn't always, like you said, that ability to express or just the needs being met. There wasn't always, one spouse meeting the emotional need of the other. And so there are times that I know that because of that blueprint, I might have been disconnected, right? Yeah. Instead of being able to give the affection needed, I was in self-preservation mode, and I'm thinking about myself.
Subconsciously, it was affecting you by seeing the model of our parents. It could have affected you subconsciously.
Absolutely.
Because I know it affected me subconsciously, and I was even unaware that what I saw with my father and mother it was subconsciously affecting me on how I was relating to you.
Yeah.
Because I came from a strict religious upbringing.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was roles and not emotional
A
connections.
lot of roles.
That was the most important thing in their marriage. And
Right.
so I was raised up where my mother and father usually got into arguments.
Yeah.
There was a lot of disagreements. We saw it, heard, and we saw more arguments than affection.
Yeah.
And I was unaware that was affecting me, you know, from a subconscious level.
For sure.
And those things can really they can go along with you through life as you develop and evolve. And so the childhood wound, based upon how they was attached to their caregiver, can affect them and how they're showing affection to their partner.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people who are married, they don't even realize the impact that their parents impose upon them through their experience in relationships. And how can that affect even before they get married?
Yeah.
How can that affect the pattern of how they treated their girlfriends or boyfriends
Yeah.
in high school all the way through college,
Yeah.
growing up, developing?
For sure. One thing that I think is important to note, because a lot of people talk about how when they're dating,
Mhm.
they're very affectionate, they're
Yeah.
very close. You know,
Yeah.
they seem to be, even those who are practicing sex outside of marriage. You know, they talk about how there's a lot of sex, you know, before they get married, and by the time they get married, it seems like things dry up.
Wow.
You know, and I do believe that even spiritually, sometimes there are some triggers there to where when the covenant is enacted, then the enemy comes in
Yeah.
and starts to scatter. He starts to create that emotional distance.
So when the enemy comes in like a flood, there's a lot of flooding going on.
Emotional flooding,
Yeah,
right?
when the enemy comes
Absolutely.
he comes to bring flooding.
Absolutely. You know, and I think that some of those things become enacted, some of those patterns that we've seen, they become enacted when we get into the covenant of marriage. And I can speak for myself. There were, you know, when we did have times of tension, like you said, there was also a lot of arguing growing up.
Yeah.
And so when tension came for me, I was triggered and kind of regressed back into the pattern that I saw. And again, it was like the closing off. It was the pulling away. It was pulling back.
Wow.
And so at that point, I'm like shut down. I don't even have the ability to the capacity
Yeah.
to have intimacy, or at least to be vulnerable, to be open, to be connected, because I'm in self-preservation mode. And so these things definitely show up a lot, and we have to be mindful and be aware that before we come into a relationship, what did that look like for you? And oftentimes people think that you can resolve it before marriage. Like, okay, I'm aware of how he acts. They say things like, make sure you see your partner angry before you get married. And those things are helpful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we do not heal our childhood wounds or those reactions by just knowing about them. We actually have to experience them, and we have to learn how to create those new patterns within ourselves to be able to move through it, in order to create the intimacy and the depth that we're all looking for
True.
in relationships.
And sometimes when a person has not seen affection in the household growing up, they can have an imbalance. They can have an unhealthy definition of what affection is for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes that brings transference. Because their father did not show them affection when they was younger, or their mother did not nurture them and show them nurturing affection when they was younger, then they're expecting their spouse to be the substitute or the surrogate of affection that was missing in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they're creating this unhealthy affection definition for their life, and it can really affect how they are treating their partner. And so many people, they're emphasizing just about emotional intelligence, but they neglect emotional intimacy. Because it's possible that you can have emotional intelligence but lack emotional intimacy, which is a foundation for strong affection. And so would it be possible that sometimes another core issue, the reason why we're not seeing affection in some marriages, or why people are married and yet struggling for affection, is because they feel unseen?
Absolutely.
They feel unheard when it comes to their core purpose, or when it comes to what they desire to see accomplished in their aspirations. And if their partner neglects that, would that affect the affection that is desiring to take place?
It's interesting that you say that, because I would imagine, and you can answer this, that particular issue is probably more common in men, where a woman does not see a man's purpose. She doesn't understand his assignment. She's not able to validate his purpose and validate what he's doing. I remember seeing, I think it was Tyler Perry's movie,
What Are You Married?
No. It was another one. Alimony, I think.
Oh,
I think
okay.
I think it's called Alimony.
Yeah.
But the character, she had been with him for so long, and he had been pursuing the goal, and they had all these financial struggles. Acrimony. Is that it? Okay, thank you.
I think it is.
Yeah, so something like that. Yeah. But he had been pursuing all these goals, and he had been unsuccessful for so long.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up, not making it. They got divorced, and then he got with another woman, and everything took off, and she was really upset, with him for not. For becoming successful outside their relationship. She wanted some of that money. And the thing is that...
But also, let's deal with that, because she was, in that movie, she was a hardworking woman. She was trying to support his dream for a long time.
Yeah.
But he was emotionally ignoring her.
Yeah.
In the beginning of a year, and that's when she just snapped.
Right.
Because she was experiencing emotional neglect.
Right.
And I know a lot of people say that, the woman should focus on the man's purpose and focus on his aspiration, not knowing that women have aspirations and focuses too.
Absolutely.
And the way that we have, the way that we as men should focus on you guys, not you guys girls. The way we should focus is looking at, what you desire to be emotionally in tune to you.
Right.
And so that can be very helpful if we're emotionally attuned to you and seeing that, okay, you have a dream too, you have a purpose too.
Yeah.
And once I'm paying attention to that emotional desire that you need to be met,
absolutely,
then I believe that can inspire you to help me as well.
Absolutely. And that is the goal, is that we can create enough space to be able to hear one another and see one another. Mm-hmm. So like you said, I think it does go both ways. So part of it is me understanding your assignment, understanding your purpose, understanding your passions, and vice versa. Like you said, understanding my callings, understanding my passions, understanding the things that are important for me, and us being able to support one another in that, not to limit one another, not to hinder one another, not to put so much burden on you to fulfill my needs and my expectations and my dreams that you begin to be quenched, that your purpose begins to be quenched, the thing that God is calling you to do, and vice versa. Sometimes it's the other way around, where the man puts so much pressure on the wife to help support his goals and his vision. This is my helpmate. You are here to serve my purpose. You exist to serve my purpose and to help me accomplish my dreams. But there has to be that reciprocity both ways, to where we're seeing each other, because again, those are things that cause the affection to dry up in a relationship when who I am as a person is being dismissed, is being diminished, it's being squashed beneath the weight of my partner.
Wow. And I'm still on that movie Acrimony that you mentioned, because there was high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
You can tell that this was a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Only if they could have chose a therapist, only if they could have chose a relationship coach to help clarify some of the things that they needed to be repaired or restored.
Absolutely.
In their affectional part of their marriage. I think that they would have lasted longer. And sometimes, it can be a compatible relationship, a relationship that has good chemistry, but because there's a starvation for affection, it can hinder it.
Absolutely.
And I think that was a good example that you brought out, because sometimes one of the major wounds of why affection is not really there is because there's a wound of rejection or misinterpretation of what I need in the moment.
Yes.
And when we neglect to see what our partner needs in the moment, or we reject what they're really desiring from us.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not just a met expectation, but sometimes it is a communicated expectation that sometimes we reject. And when we reject it, we're not really showing affection. Yeah. It doesn't mean a physical touch. It doesn't mean to get, like you said, to get to a sexual place in the relationship. Sometimes it's just, I want to be heard.
Absolutely.
I want to be seen. Do you see what I'm doing? Do you feel that the job is burdensome to me?
Yeah.
Do you see all the things that I'm facing outside?
Yeah.
If you learn how to do that, then you're feeding affection that can bring you into a place of enjoying the sexual union, right?
For sure. I think that rejection, like, we probably need to park there for a little bit, because I believe that it's those they're almost like tiny cuts again and again and again, which usually really starts to disintegrate the health of the relationship. Right. I think that both partners throughout the relationship experience what feels like rejection after rejection after rejection. Yes. And like you said, it's not just necessarily an initiation of sex that where a woman shuts it down or a man shuts it down, but it's rejection. Meaning, maybe I come and I need a hug, I need an embrace,
Yes.
but you're busy.
Wow.
Maybe you're trying to get my attention. You're trying to tell me about your day. You're trying to tell me about your goals, and I'm on my phone, or I'm busy with the kids. Those things within ourselves, they get interpreted as rejection. I feel like, man, he's not seeing me. I feel like she's not hearing me. She's not seeing me. Those invalidations, those rejections, those over time really start to eat away at the trust of the relationship and at the ability to even continue. Sometimes people get to a place where we don't even want to continue. And I know we've been to that place, where we felt like, I've tried to initiate something, and a lot of times it's nonverbal, so I think that's a problem too, is that a lot of times we don't actually know how to communicate. Hey, I need a moment. Wow. I need you right now for this reason. Just to be present, right? Or vice versa. You may not know how to actually articulate it because there is that fear of vulnerability there. We don't know how to ask for what we really need because we fear subconsciously being rejected by our partner, or we fear the vulnerability or opening up, being perceived as weakness.
So when a person they get on their phone or you're talking to them, they're not looking at you. These are what we call negative bids, right? The common theory, they're turning away instead of turning towards.
Yes.
And just by turning towards to be present with your partner, you're showing affection.
Right.
Without the touch, it's nonverbal. It's like, okay, I want to be in your space. I want to be in your world, and I see you.
Yeah.
I see you beyond the words. I see you beyond the complaint that you're sharing right now. And me and you together can take over the world. So if you're sharing your problem to me, you're sharing your complaint, I'm not trying to fix that problem. I'm not going to get on the other person's side. Yeah. I'm going to get on your side. Okay, I see you. I relate to it. Okay, she did that to you. She wrong for that.
Yeah.
Even though I think in my mind that I think this growing up, you need to know, I'm going to stay on your side. Because at that moment, you need someone to connect to feel you and how you felt. And those are really positive turning towards a positive bid. And those are like you said, the little things that can build strong intimacy and closeness in the relationship, strong affection. Yeah.
I heard it said that men want teammates, women want soulmates.
Yes.
What is your thought on that? Because I can speak to the women in the soulmate part, but what is your thought on the aspect of men want a teammate?
Well, a true husband with a vision, they're always trying to create a project that's beneficial for their family. They're always trying to create a project that can leave a family legacy. Yeah. And whenever that woman is not on board with that, it's like a lack of affection in that area. And sometimes women, wives, they think all their husband wants is sex. All their husband wants is intimate times. But really, the husband truly wants that wife to partner with him to create the project that he has in mind. And sometimes he cannot articulate it. Sometimes he might be on the couch and you think he's doing nothing. He's not doing anything, but he's on the couch. He's thinking. He's visualizing. He just needs that helpmate to help him bring what he has in his mind into fruition, into a manifestation. Okay.
So that is a form of affection for a man when a woman is, she's on his side, she's a cheerleader, she's encouraging him on, she's telling him go for it, pursue it. Yeah. I love it.
But my mentor used to say that it's good to have a wife that's a cheerleader, not a lion tamer.
Wow.
And we have wives that are taming the lion.
Yeah.
Instead of cheerleading the lion on, instead of letting that lion become robust, they want a heartless lion. I think it's the Wizard of Oz. They want a man with no courage because they're taming the lion instead of cheerleading the lion on. Ooh. And so that's what a man looks for. He looks for that intimate teammate, intimate partner that says, hey, I'm going to team up with you, and whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to accomplish, look, I'm going to help you find the resources to make it come to pass.
I like it.
Now the soulmate, what about the soulmate?
Yeah, which is so interesting because I found that even in our marriage, when I became a better teammate, you became a better soulmate. Wow. Or when I became a better soulmate, when you became a better soulmate to me, then I was able to become a better teammate. And so I believe that for women are looking for almost like a best friend. They're looking for someone who they can talk to, who can give them emotional security, support, and comfort, who's able to hear them and give this type of nurturing to the inner child within, the little girl within, who's able to give us comfort as women and wives. And so for a woman, when a man is able to hear, to validate, to comfort our soul, then it opens up this space of greater capacity to be able to show up, in a more supportive way, in a way with our guards down. I think women, because we're naturally, we work with both sides of our brains. We're normally, like you said, like a lion tamer. We're trying to fix things, get things in order, but a man is not looking for that, right? You're looking for that teammate. And if a woman feels that sense of the sense of being heard, being understood, being nurtured, it unlocks something in her that gives her a greater capacity to show up.
Interesting. So definitely, I feel like that if that woman is really connected to that man, and that man is really connecting to that woman, or the husband's connected to the wife, and the wife is connecting to a man, nothing would be impossible for them to accomplish.
Absolutely.
They can basically do a lot of good things, right?
I believe it's God's desire for us.
Okay, so what do you think about when one of the partners feels overwhelmed, like they're doing a lot of things, like the wife, she's taking care of the kids.
For sure.
She's taking care of the household.
For sure.
Feels like she's not being helped in that capacity. Can that rob affection from taking place?
Yeah, I think for both the man and the woman, when a husband, maybe he's burned out because he is maybe the sole provider, or he maybe isn't the sole provider, but he works a very hard, very demanding job. I've talked to couples in marriage counseling, or individuals, the man or the wife, who needed, some support in the marriage counseling. And for men, I heard, they were working hard, demanding jobs. They might have been out in the sun. And then they come home and it's filled with complaints.
Wow.
It's filled with frustration from the wife. And vice versa, as a wife, and I can speak from my own experience dealing with young kids, 2 under 2 or more, and you are doing all these things. You're trying to get the kids ready for bed. You're trying to feed everyone. You're trying to deal with all of the attitudes and the frustrations of the kids and the crying. And then a lot of times for women, it just feels like intimacy is just another thing that she has to check off the list.
Wow.
And so
would you say that helping that woman is also part of the friendship dimensions, also part of expressing yourself as a friend? I'm a supporter. And I think I want to connect that to that first thing that you said. You're talking about how women, they need their husband to be a friend to them sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know in our religious jargon, we're so used to saying PPK, prophet, priest, and king. And then I think you're trying to add the F on there, PPKF. Not only do the wife need you to be a prophet, not only do the wife need you to be a priest and a king. That's good, but she needs you to be a friend sometimes.
Absolutely.
And I say that because sometimes when you are trying to communicate that you need my help or you need my support, or you're communicating to me about a certain issue that happened in your career, or a certain person that you talk to, sometimes my prophetic instinct hit in. I think I need to fix it. Here's the word of the Lord. Here's what you need to do. And you don't need me to show up as a prophet, and you don't need me to show up as a king. You don't need me to show up as a priest, like on Pray About It. Sometimes you just need me to show up as a friend, right?
Absolutely.
To be empathic,
Absolutely.
to hear you and listen to you, and just be there for you.
Absolutely.
As you're sharing this and as you're processing this thing on.
Absolutely.
And it's the same way when it comes to supporting in the house, right? And I think also men, they need a friend too. Men are looking for friends too. Sometimes I feel like sometimes wives feel like that's all women need is friends. But really true men, they live a lonely life.
Absolutely.
And the closest person they can really talk to and relate to is their wives. And the wives really is like the best friend to the husband sometimes. It's good to have your fraternity group, your brotherhood. But nobody can be a greater friend to the man like the wife can.
Wow.
So I think that can hinder when there's no friendship.
Absolutely.
It can hinder, intimacy and affection.
I think that it not only hinders the affection that we're talking about, I think that on some levels it can even shorten the lifespan.
Wow.
Because we are wired for that level of connection. We're wired for that level of depth and understanding, and that love, like, it feeds the soul of both person. I heard one person say, one psychologist say, he said that he doesn't look at the longevity of a marriage. He doesn't look at how long two people have been married. He looks at how the souls of those two people are, the health of the souls of those two people within a marriage. Because you have people, especially back in, our grandparents' days, great-grandparents' days, they may have longevity, but they were miserable, you know, but both people
emotionally disconnected.
They were emotionally disconnected. They were distraught within themselves.
Wow.
And so we not only want to have longevity, we want to have life in the longevity.
I love that.
You know,
and Christians, and we're so used to. I remember we met a couple. We asked them how they was doing, and the wife said sarcastically, "My marriage is fine, but we're not friends." You know, and so there's so many Christians. They're used to, you know, Christian jargon, used to covering the issues of disconnection, the issues of emotional unavailability in their marriage, and the toxic habits they have created in marriage with. Oh, we're blessed. My marriage is fine. Oh yeah, we're good.
Right.
We've been married for a long time.
But it's soulless.
But from the subroot level, they have no friendship. No friendship connection going on. There's no intimacy going on, and it is really hindering. It's eating away, like you said, the lifespan of that marriage. Eventually, that marriage is going to crumble because the foundation to any healthy marriage is friendship. Right. Friendship is the foundation. Right. And it starts with a spiritual connection, soulless connection, then there's a physical connection. Yeah. And so when there's no friendship, you know, eventually, you know, it's not gonna last. Like we met so many couples, they waited 20 years of marriage and then they decided to divorce. Or they've been married for 30 years and all of a sudden now they're looking.
And truth be told, it's not all of a sudden, you know, it's like the silent divorce. You know, they've been together. Divorce. They've been together, but they've been divorced affectionately for a really long time. You know, and I think that one of the most powerful things we can do, like we have assessed when we've been in a state in our marriage where, you know, we're going through the motions, we're doing the things, maybe we've experienced major transitions with having more kids or even loss in our family or whatever was going on, drama, trauma, you know, with other people that we're trying to navigate, to help minister to, and it affects our marriage. Is causing us to be us to have conflict and friction because of the challenges that we're going through, and we see what's happening. Like at some point there's a breach, right? And when we don't deal with the breaches, that's when affection begins to dry up.
Makes sense.
And so we have been intentional about sitting down at some point. You know, sometimes it goes on for a while. It might be days, it might be weeks, it might be months of just kind of going in and out of a cycle. And that's usually what's happening. But when we don't sit down and tend to the breach that's happening, it's like we're bleeding out. We're bleeding out all of this.
So it's important to tend to the breach.
Absolutely.
Before you totally bleed out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what about like wives that have suffered or been through traumatic experiences like a rape or molestation?
Yeah, that's a big one.
And then when they get married, they become frigid or they become cold or they're afraid for their husband to get close to them. Or it can be vice versa sometimes.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the husband don't want his wife to get close to them.
Yeah.
And so I guess how can that dry up the moments of affection that can happen?
Such an important topic. And actually, before we go there, I want to say something else about, you were talking about men being, you know, helpful when it comes to the tasks. And I want to say, too, it's important for wives, because I've heard a lot of men complain. You know, they're working hard, they're coming home, they're met with complaints, right? And the importance of being able to create space during that time, like even though both people are tired, like it's important to realize most of the time, you know, that both people are tired, both people are putting in work. Sometimes that's not the case, and I would tell people to go to counseling. If you have, if it's 80-20, you know, then something has been going on for entirely too long that needs to be fixed. But usually both couples, they just have a different type of stress, a different type of struggle. But if a woman can learn how to create space for a man, let's say he comes home from work, create space, let him gather himself.
We're going to do some of those solutions because we want to bring some of those solutions out. But what we want to discuss, we want to open up all these things that go on in marriages, right? And those things, like you said, burning out, it can open up the door, you know, for somebody else to come in.
Yeah, or close the door on the affection.
Close the door on the affection. In this present relationship, but open the door for a new relationship that should not even happen, right? Or when these things are happening, when the wife is shutting down on the husband and the husband shutting down on the wife, they're opening themselves up for another relationship to happen that's outside the marriage, right? Because there's always this starvation from affection. When it's not fed, it's going to try to find other places to feed it or to fulfill it.
Right. And I like what you said earlier, too.
Or to satisfy it.
Right.
You know?
It could be some toxic habits. Yeah. It could be the start of pornography usage, or maybe I won't even say the start. Sometimes it's the the increased usage
increase
of pornography. It could be, like you said, talking to somebody. It might not even be a full-on affair. It could be an emotional affair. And so, I agree. Now, going back to this topic of how these traumas can impact affection, like that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Because if
there
I'm
was
not
the trauma responses.
if I'm not mistaken, it's reported that at least 1 in 4 people have experienced some type of sexual violation, right? And so when we look at these numbers, we are talking about a huge number of people, both inside and outside the church, who are already entering into marriage, already having been violated outside of their marriage. And so this is something that affects so many people, and you would be surprised the number of men that I've counseled who were also sexually violated as children, and it's impacting their ability to have intimacy and affection and connection in the marriage.
Yeah, let me interrupt you. Just for those who are dating, right? So those who have not stepped into marriage yet, would you say it's wise for them to, when they go out on dates and when they get deeper and closer with that next person or that person that they're with, is it wise for them to even question, have they ever experienced rape? Have they ever experienced molestation? And ask that person, how has it affected your sex life? Because sometimes people get married and they don't even know their spouse was raped or violated or sexually assaulted until after the marriage. So, they did not create a space or opportunity to sit down and count the costs. And am I ready to nurture this person after they came out of this traumatic experience, or am I ready to go and take the journey with them until they heal? So would you say it's wise for dating couples to even make those inquiries?
Sure. I think that maybe from a Christian perspective, maybe during engagement, that those conversations really need to be had, because the reality is that we've all experienced something that's going to impact the quality of marriage that we have.
Okay,
right?
you said during engagement. I said prior to engagement.
Prior to engagement.
Yeah, that's how I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so I definitely think it's an important topic. Maybe I should just say maybe a more serious type of relationship. I don't think we need to be on the first date like, it was right.
Of course.
You know what I mean? But I think that as things are getting more, as we're progressing in a relationship. But I do think it's absolutely one of those important topics, along with a lot of other important topics.
Yeah, because we, as pastors, and coaches, and youth therapists, we have seen a lot of men frustrated because their wife have withheld herself on them, and they have not even had intimacy within 6 months or a year. That's like where I seen the husband hold off himself from his wife, but in particular, it's mainly men who have felt left out, in the marriage room, or sometimes that wife who have experienced that. I'm talking about Christian women. They would be fasting a lot. They'll pray a lot, or they would, instead of focusing on their spouse, they would substitute that for working at the church or ministering at the church, and then they'll work themselves so tiredly spiritually at the church, or even in their career. When they get home, they use that as an scapegoat. The reason why I came to affection is because I'm tired. But if the truth be told, it was really a trauma response to something that's deeper. Causing them to do that, right? Would you say?
Yeah, for sure. I think that I think it's really complicated, and I think that it is absolutely vital. I think that's why marriage counseling is important.
True.
Because if there is a problem when it comes to intimacy, it is absolutely going to begin to corrode the affection in that relationship. It's going to cause vital flows of love and energy and connection to be cut off.
Gotcha.
And it's something that needs to be healed, because we know that sex within marriage is a gift from God.
It is.
And the enemy wants to sever that, and of course there are medical issues and things that come into play, but more so just speaking purely from trauma and how trauma impacts a person's desire for intimacy. That's something that it needs to be it needs healing there. And I believe that God has gifted people with wisdom to be able to work through that type of trauma. Not only that type of trauma, but any type of trauma. Sometimes people just have an inability to even be expressive, within the marriage bed. Like they're not expressive. They're not able to even be to cuddle, to have public displays of affection.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that out. So speaking about expressive, I want to deal with this last thing. We're going to deal with the solutions. But, what about when marriage couples are doing the same monotonous lovemaking or doing the same thing? Can that hinder affection? And I think that every partner has a wild side to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes when the partner is not open for their partner to express that wild side, or they neglect it or dismiss it, will that rob affectionate moments? I believe it will.
Absolutely.
But what is your intake on that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that it absolutely will. So I look at it within this context because there are lots of problems that can arise, right? You can have trauma, right, which could take away desire altogether, right? Now, I'm not talking about a medical issue. I'm talking about just a psychologically speaking.
Yeah.
But you also have, let's speak more so from a man's perspective. A lot of men lack the ability to be expressive in the way that a woman needs.
Yeah.
A woman needs physical touch. She needs to be caressed. She needs a certain type of affection to feel cherished, right? Yeah. And that's many women. I'm not going to say all women, because some women also are kind of closed off when it comes. But and it goes, which is why I say it goes both ways. A lot of it has to do with upbringing. Again, the expression in your home. Some people don't like to be touched, period, because of things that have happened. But for the most part, right, that's what it looks like. And so sometimes you have, within the dynamic of a relationship, we have an inability to know how to express physical touch in a way that it should be demonstrated within a marriage.
And truth be told, though, I think men, they need that touch too.
Yes.
Because it's something about when you come and touch me in the morning, you touch me on my face, or I could be doing something at the table in the kitchen and you touch my shoulder gently.
Yeah.
Those are turn-on triggers.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to grow into that level of expression, though.
Yeah. I agree. I get that.
Yeah.
So that's okay. So the question I asked you though is a very vital question, like the monotonous, the wild side.
Yeah.
Because we can't skip that because, and we're not talking about that kinky stuff that I'm hitting you, abusing you.
Nothing perverted, dysfunctional, right?
But we're talking about some stuff like, okay, I would love to see you in this dress. I'd love to see you like
for sure.
Woo.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So the thing is, when that person appears to be, say, they're married to a holy saint, wife or a holy saint husband, well, we don't do that in there.
Yeah.
And not knowing that everything that you do in the bedroom is based upon agreement.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
the agreement in the bedroom makes it holy.
For sure.
It's not, making laws. You got the 10 commandments in your bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not. It's not talking about that. It's talking about anything that is disagreeable becomes unholy or is unsanctified. But if it's agreeable between those two people, it becomes a holy ritual.
Absolutely.
And so we'll probably talk about that later on with sex therapy and love making.
Which is why, absolutely, we're gonna get into it. But which is why I brought up the fact that it doesn't start in the bedroom, right? Gotcha. It's not just like, oh, we're rigid all day and just going through the motions, don't touch each other, and in the bedroom, like everything. You know what I mean? It has to be, if there is. If our expression is blunted in the bedroom, then it's because it's that way everywhere, right? We lack expression and that ability to connect physically and have a lot of physical touch in general. And so there's something that has to be initiated. There's usually a belief behind that. Some men perceive it as weakness. Some women, it could be the hyper independence, or it could be so let's do the hyper independence. Like the hyper independence, like that can affect affectionate connections. For sure, but I believe so because it has to do with a vulnerability, right? If you did
define hyper independence, because people need to know that.
Yeah, so there's a healthy independence, right, where I'm able to function on my own. I know who I am. I know my identity. Yeah. But hyper independence is a trauma response.
Wow.
Based on not having.
Hyper independence is a trauma response.
Absolutely, not having reliable caregivers. They might not have been reliable emotionally. They may not have been reliable financially. And so you had to develop the ability to take care of yourself, and it became a hyper,
independent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So could it be also that in the relationship, hyper independence, where the man never met that woman's emotions, or the woman always used the bedroom as a place of manipulation. She weaponized intimacy. And now both parties are saying, I don't need you. I don't need to have sex with you. I don't need to be close with you. So now it's become a hyper independence that's taking place.
Right.
Like, since you emotionally abused me, since you probably physically abused me, mentally abused me, now I'm responding with this trauma response. I'm hyper independent. Would you say something like that? Like,
Yeah, I believe it can definitely happen that way. And again, it's a fear of vulnerability.
Wow.
Right? Because of what's happened, I've shut down that part of myself. Okay. Now I might be in self-preservation mode. Maybe, I feel like it's a weakness. In order to keep myself safe, I'm, taking that off the table, the ability to open up and connect. And we see that so many times in marriages where it's affectionless.
Wow.
Again, it goes back to these breaches that have happened. It may have been emotional abuse, physical abuse, things that have happened. We swept it under the rug, just kept going. Yeah. But our physiologically, we're not created to be able to. Who opens themselves up to a snake? Right? If a snake is, you don't open yourself up to a snake, exactly. Right?
Or a scorpion.
Right, to a scorpion. We have that same reaction towards our spouse when there is some type of breach. That affection is one of the first things to go.
And one more thing I think that robs affection is performance love-based conditioning. Performance love-based conditioning is where I feel like you have to do a certain thing for me to give myself to you.
Yes.
And you might feel the same way. Unless he cleans the kitchen, I'm not going to give myself to him tonight. Unless she cooks for me, I might feel like unless she cooks for me, then I'm not going to open myself up to her tonight. I'm not going to even buy roses. I'm not going to even start the intimate section by intimate activation by being emotionally connected to you.
Yeah.
I might do something like just try to force myself on you at night. But because of this lack of love condition, because of this performance-based conditioning, there's no true emotional connection, right?
Yeah.
So how does that affect, affectionate moments from taking place?
Yeah.
Performance-based love conditioning.
Absolutely. One thing I would say is that always there's an underlying issue, right? There's always some type of underlying issue at play that has gotten a couple or a person to this point, and that needs to be dealt with, right? But we're talking about, aside from some type of traumatic, abusive type thing, sometimes we have been taught that type of mindset that, a man needs to meet this standard. He needs to be, making this much money. He needs to be showing up this type of way for me. He needs to, perform in this way in order for him to earn, my body or earn my time, right? And that becomes toxic, right? Not, he has been shut down for 6 days. Okay, then we need to deal with that, right? But aside from those things, that mindset that a person has to meet my standards, right? That type of mindset becomes toxic.
Wow.
Or vice versa. A man feels like she needs to look a certain way. She needs to perform at a certain standard. Exactly. That type of love, that performance-based love, is absolutely toxic, and it's anti-biblical because it goes against God's desire for us to develop unconditional love for one another.
And emotional connection. I want to qualify what I just said about forcing ourselves upon our wives. Is that we know we need to constantly connect with her throughout the day. Yeah. We need to constantly show affectionate terms throughout the day. Text her, saying we're thinking about her, we love her, make the necessary hugs, etc. Before we try to have intimate connection with her. Yeah. And if we don't do that,
those deposits, those love deposits.
We're gonna make those love deposits, those intimate love deposits throughout the day, and we skip that, and then at night we just come in the room and say, you need to give me your due benevolence.
Yeah.
We quote that scripture, 1 Corinthians 7, the law of due benevolence. You need to be, open to me because your body's not your own.
Yeah.
And we use these type of scriptures to, get our way. What I want to say, that's more of the forces, more. I want to qualify that because it's not like raping.
Yeah.
But when you start skipping those steps for stronger, intimate, emotional connections, you're basically forcing yourself on her. Yeah. So let's do some solutions. Like, what's some things that marriages can do so they can have stronger, affectionate connections?
Yeah.
We know that one of them is to create a schedule, to create a space for an opportunity to connect affectionately.
Yeah, I think when I hear that, I think of an affection rhythm. One thing that we had to learn to do after we came out of a place of a breach, right, where we were both shut down for a bit and things had gotten to that place is that we began to, after we dealt with it, we had the conversation, we began to create like an affection rhythm. So there are certain things, it's almost like a ritual, certain things that we do on a regular basis, you know. And I remember telling you, you know, when there were certain things you started to do, like you know, kissing me every morning. I mean, without fail, it was like something went off in my mind. It's like something in me opened up, like the feminine side, even more femininity began to come out.
But you know, at that moment, I had a narrative in my mind. I thought you didn't want to be hugged by me. I thought in my mind, this negative narrative was running in my mind that I was not worthy to hug you. And not knowing that you really needed a hug.
Yes.
You know, and for me to, when I took that boldness and changed the narrative, took the boldness to hug you, you was like, that's what I needed. It kind of shocked me.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, hugging is a very powerful thing. And the 20-second kiss. Yeah. Sometimes we believe in the 60-second kiss. Yeah. I forgot what therapist, I had a cassette tape. That's how long we practiced that. But the 60-second kiss or the 20-second embrace.
Yeah, those are so, you know, even psychologically it does something to have that physical touch. It does something. Even for babies, we talk about the skin to skin, but it does something to have those types of embraces where they're intentional and it's like full a full connection. You know, it does something. But like you said, there are certain things, it's like meeting the need of the moment that unlock something. There are certain things that you've done that have just like completely unlocked. Maybe I was stressed out, frustrated, but in that moment it's like oxytocin is released, dopamine. It just creates this healing. It's almost like a healing hug. And so those types of things are important, and we've created certain types of rhythms of things that we do consistently.
So what do you say about what would you say also what we did and created to have spaces for affectionate connections or emotional connections was that we was aware of what type of love language needed to be expressed at the moment. Because, you know, going through so many traumas, going through so many things as we evolved in this marriage, our love language is not fixed. It probably changed.
Absolutely.
You probably needed not gifts at that moment, but you needed emotional quality time. Because I remember one time I bought you this fancy expensive purse, and you came back the next day and said you don't have to buy me another gift. It was like, what? What? Right. She said, I just want a quality time with you. It's like, wow. Or I still bought you this expensive ring that you really wear.
Right.
You know, because it didn't matter to you because that was not the love language. See, that was not the moment that you needed that love language to be expressed.
Right.
And so, so the love language, what about knowing the right love language at the moment? Would that keep us in that affectionate rhythm?
I think so too. And even just asking because... you know, like, what do you need right now?
You have not because now.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, there are times when I sat and thought to myself, because I know...
so you said normalizing asking for affection.
Normalizing just asking for affection, which is not easy for a lot of couples, especially if there have been some type of breaches. And even if you work through them, we can default back into patterns of being hyper independent or... just keeping that distance, but
I feel sometimes the reason why it has been abnormalized is because probably earlier through the relationship, it felt like the partner was like, "Oh, you just want me for sex," or certain phrases and sentences has traumatized the other partner, where now they are even afraid to ask for affection. Right. So would you say that partners need to start living in the present and don't let their past arrest them for what they from what they really want from their partner?
You know, one thing I'll say, I told you this one time because it awakened, it gave me a level of clarity and understanding. Because one thing about it, the whole book, what is it? Women are from Venus and men are from Mars. You know, we really do look at things very differently. And there was one time that you told me, like we were just spending some time together after we connected, and you told me, you gave me an emotional response around, or explanation around why, you know, sometimes you needed intimacy. And that spoke to my feminine side. It wasn't like, hey, let's, you know, like the way men sometimes can come on to women, you know, where it just bypasses the woman's emotional the way that we process things, and you explain it in such a way, and maybe it was a vulnerable time for you, but for me it connected, it landed, it made me think, wow, like this is so important and precious for him, and it awakened something in me as a nurturing wife that made me understand from a deeper level what this meant for you. So
basically, when I disclose why I'm wired this way.
Yeah. And not even why you wired that way. It was the way you express it.
Okay.
It was more vulnerable, because I think sometimes we're missing each other because we're expressing it in a way that, you're saying it the way that a man maybe would express it to, the way guys would understand, right? And women are speaking in a way where another woman would understand. But you spoke my language at that time. Wow. You explained it to me in a way that touched me as a woman.
Interesting.
And so so I do believe that once we can begin to foster a space of safety in a relationship where you're able to really express, hey, this is what I need right now. I'm able to express, hey, this is what I need. And we can look beyond our own needs in that moment. Like it can unlock something that can create that space.
And I think we both came into an agreement